Hello, and welcome back to Around the Kitchen Table with Happy Herbs.
My name is Rochelle. I'm a certified herbalist and the owner and founder of Happy Herbs.
And my name is Jordanna, and I am a life coach, almost therapist, and I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, okay, so today we have some exciting topics to talk about. Do you want to introduce us to what you're going to talk about?
Yes, so today we are going to be talking about detoxing.
Rochelle.
Yes, so there are so many different types of detoxing, and I find that whenever we are hearing the word detox, we automatically think extreme. We think juice fast, we think intermediate fasting, we think extreme.
Yeah, we
like
do.
really difficult tasks.
It's pretty taboo when you think about detox.
Yeah.
And especially I think I think people affiliate detoxing with weight loss.
Yes, exactly.
So can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah.
What is the point of detoxing? Are we doing it to lose weight, or is that just a benefit of detoxing?
Well, it is a benefit of detoxing depending on the type that you do, but ultimately detoxing is to get toxins out of our body.
Okay.
Right? Because we don't want to get that overload where, if we are not properly detoxing through our lives, we can get an overload of toxins in our body, which can lead to illness and disease, very serious disease.
Okay.
So we always want to make sure that we are detoxing as often as possible, but it doesn't need to be as complicated as, the internet says it needs to be. We don't need to, starve ourselves for a week. We don't need to juice fast for a week or do any of that intense stuff. Not to say those things are bad in extreme situations. Absolutely. If you want to do that, you can.
Right.
But I do think that detoxing needs to be looked at very differently if you are a man or a woman. So ultimately, let's kind of start with light detoxing.
Okay.
So I'll kind of give you an example of what I do. So every day I do a form of detoxing. After dinner, usually that's my last meal. I stop eating after dinner.
Which is what time?
Usually like 6.
Okay.
6 o'clock is usually the last time that I stop eating.
And what time do you eat breakfast?
So I actually don't eat breakfast. I drink in the morning. So we'll get to that.
Okay.
Let me explain that. So I will stop eating after dinner, but I won't stop drinking. So if I have anything else throughout the night, I'll have lemon water or tea because that is going to allow my body to go into some sort of mild detox mode rather than, when you're having a lot of food right before bed, especially fats before bed. Those foods are really hard to digest. So not only are you going to have not as good of a sleep if you have a lot of food in your stomach before you go to bed, but it's going to be harder for your body to go into that detox mode and get out toxins while you sleep. Because while we sleep, that's when your body goes into recovery mode. So you want to make sure that you're giving it that time.
Okay.
And that the body isn't so busy working on digesting food that it can't do that.
Okay.
So after dinner, like I said, I'll have my lemon water, I'll have my tea, whatever, and then I'll go to bed. And then in the morning, this is my version of light detoxing is I personally, I don't like eating breakfast. I'm not hungry right in the morning.
Wow.
I wake up and I chug 16 ounces of lemon water.
Really?
Every morning. I chug 16 ounces of lemon water because you have to think when we are detoxing, when you try and flush a toilet, if you try and flush it without water, it's not going to flush. But so
That's a really good analogy. Wow.
Right? And so you need water in order to flush the system. So once, I wake up, my body's doing all that work while I'm sleeping. The first thing I do is give it something so that it can flush.
Do you know what? No one's ever explained that to me. I've never thought about it that way because I always hear drink water when you wake up. Sometimes I'm motivated to do it. Sometimes I'm not. But this motivates me. That is a good point that your body is doing the work. So help it out in the morning.
Exactly.
I can't learn that now.
Right?
Now I'm going to have to be accountable.
We are like toilets.
Oh my gosh.
So I drink 16 ounces of lemon juice and I make mine strong. I'm putting an ounce of lemon juice in my water.
Are you making it just from a lemon or?
Sometimes I will, but honestly, most times I'm buying lemon juice, but be careful with what lemon juice you buy because a lot of lemon juice, has like citric acid, it has like lemon
Everything has
essential
citric
oil in
acid.
it's not lemon juice. So personally, like I go to Goodness Me, they have a great brand there in the glass bottle. It's just lemon juice.
Okay.
And I will just use that because honestly, it saves me a ton of time. And I love lemon water. I drink so much of it every single
Really?
day. So I'll start my morning with, my 16 ounces of lemon water. And then after that, I'll usually have tea.
Oh, wow.
I'll usually like whatever tea I think I need during that time, like lemon balm tea or maybe some raspberry leaf or nettle, until I get hungry, until my body tells me it's hungry, right? And then I'll eat. But usually I find that I'm not hungry until 11.
Okay.
Depending on what time you wake up, though. Like I wake up usually at 7:38. If you're
Okay.
waking up at like 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, you're going to be hungry a lot earlier.
sure.
Give your body food. If you're hungry, don't starve yourself.
Okay.
Give your body food. But even if you are a breakfast person and you want to eat right away, drink that lemon water first, wait 15 minutes, and then have your breakfast.
Okay.
And that is a really light form to allow yourself to detox every single day without doing anything extreme,
Right.
So there's that type of detoxing. I also should add, like, a lot of people, they wake up and they want their coffee right away.
Yeah.
It's like, always be mindful about the first thing that you put into your body.
Okay.
Make sure that the first thing you put into your body is going to help flush your system. Don't give yourself coffee the first thing, because coffee is it's not the best for us.
Doesn't it dehydrate the body as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a lot of controversy on coffee because the thing is, you can look at any food and find good nutrients within it, right? So you can take coffee apart and be like, oh, well, there's magnesium in coffee and there's this and there's that and there's all these great things. But
Right.
ultimately, like, what is it doing to the body regardless of all of those good things that are in it? Coffee heightens the nervous system. When we take coffee, our body goes into fight or flight
Okay.
right away. And that's why a lot of people poop after they have coffee, because their body's like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Okay.
We need to get rid of this. And so it dumps, but it pulls a lot of the nutrients that are in our body with it. So a lot of people who are avid coffee drinkers can actually be anemic because it pulls nutrients with it. Yeah.
Interesting.
So coffee should be used for a purpose. And I know that like most people love their coffee and they're not willing to give it up, and that's okay. So, just try and reduce your coffee intake.
Yep.
Maybe just one a day if you really can't let it go, and just don't let it be the first thing that you have in the morning.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is interesting. So you're saying when it comes to detoxing, there is a balance that you can find, and your balance is just having times where you cap when your food intake. And then I like it because you're intuitively doing this. You're waking up and then you're allowing your body to tell you when you're hungry, which to me sounds like a really good way to eat. That's a really good relationship with food and with your body and being mindful.
And everyone has a different type of body, I should add. And some people, like, they wake up and they need really big breakfasts. They feel like they need a lot of protein in the morning or they can't function. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just because somebody says, oh, no, you should only have this for breakfast, doesn't mean that that is right for you if you don't feel good doing that. So you need to listen to yourself ultimately. But for myself, I don't feel good waking up and having, meat or eggs or bread or any of those foods for breakfast. It doesn't make me feel good. For me, I use breakfast as an opportunity to continue to flush. So usually the first foods that I put in my body is fruit, because I want to eat my water. And fruit is so good for the body, right? And it's full of nutrients. So I usually start my day with a big bowl of cut up apples with cinnamon. And then from there, I'll usually have a banana, maybe some grapes, some strawberries, whatever fruit I can get. I love fruit, obviously more in the summer than in the winter, but I don't eat eggs. I don't eat bread. I start my day with a lot of fruit, like a queen's plate
For sure.
of fruit, so that I can continue that flushing process.
Okay.
And also because it's delicious and I love it. And if you look at Chinese medicine, there is an order of how we should eat food. And fruit is really good to start your day with, because let's say you had steak, okay? And then, and we know that steak takes about 12 plus hours to digest.
Okay.
Fruit takes about 2 hours. So you have that steak and then you eat fruit and you plop that on top of the meat.
Right.
Now it's going to ferment.
I was going to say ferment.
It's going to ferment on top of there, and it's going to cause bacteria in the gut.
Yeah.
And so we in North America, we don't think about the order of food.
Right.
And so we have to, that's a whole nother topic and I don't want to overwhelm, but that is something to look into if anyone is interested, is the order of food, because we want to make sure that we are eating in order when it comes to how long does that food take to digest, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay, well, maybe we can transition into, I feel like we're talking about different types of extremes, like just in terms of you're finding a balance with how you're eating and how you're detoxing. What does that look like for men?
So I will, before I get into that, I will say like I'm currently breastfeeding.
Okay.
So for me to do like a 3-day, fruit cleanse or something, which I'm okay with depending on where you are in your cycle,
Okay.
but when I'm breastfeeding, like I'm gonna have no milk if I do that.
Right.
So I'm not gonna do that, right?
Yeah.
For men, they are just like they're running on testosterone. They're feeling good all day long. They don't got hormones like us fluctuating up and down. They don't need as much fat as us.
Right.
So men, if they want to do like an intermediate fast that's, more extreme. For women, I would say like 16 hours is totally fine.
Okay.
I would say 18 max.
Really?
But for men, they can do, and this is from like, okay, let's say you stop eating at, 7 and then you don't eat the next day till like 11. Like that's kind of more realistic for women.
Right.
If you want to push it an extra hour or two because you're, really feeling good, okay, fine, but be mindful. But for men, they don't have the same hormones as us. So if they wanted to drink water for 3 days, they could do that with a lot more grace. And I'm not saying that you should do that all the time. If you wanted to do that like once a year or twice a year or whatever, and that's what makes you feel good, that's your way of detoxing, you can do that.
Right.
I do think that's fine.
Okay.
But I do think as women, we have to be a lot more mindful. I'm not the type where I would want to starve myself for 3 days. Like that's too extreme. I'm going to be so moody, but I would eat fruit for 3 days.
For sure.
No problem.
For sure.
I would just eat fruit. Like I could do that.
So one time, I didn't detox, but I fasted for 72 hours.
Ooh.
So it was hard, but I was very determined. I did it more for weight loss.
Okay.
And I did that. So I was fasting like 36 hours weekly. And then I turned it to 72 hours. I was feeling really good. I was feeling very aware and alert. But I hear what you're saying, because going extreme is not sustainable. Because I don't know, was it you who were telling me that when you fast and then when you start to take food, your body goes crazy?
Well, you have to be so careful with how you do it. And that's why I really like to, like if I was going to do an extreme type of fasting, I would eat fruit, because when you starve yourself for a certain amount of time and then you eat again, your body goes into survival mode and it thinks, oh my gosh, she's not going to eat again. So we're going to store this as fat.
Right.
So that the next time she does this, like we have food to hold on to, because it's trying to protect you, right? It doesn't know if you're starving for real life. So you have to be really mindful with how often you do it and how long you do it and when you do it, because that could be an issue. And people who do it specifically for weight loss are usually doing it a lot more frequently. And so their body gets used to that stress, and therefore it will start to store fat. And then you can actually end up gaining more weight and more weight over time in the long run.
Which is what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. And then so I like that you keep going on this point of, if you are going to detox and if you are going to implement fasting, incorporate fruits. Like do it with fruits, because you said you can eat your water. Yeah.
And like have fun with it. Enjoy it.
Okay.
You don't have to like be struggling and cranky and upset. Like just eat lots of fruits that are high in water during that time if you really want to go that intense.
Okay.
But you don't need to. Like if you're obviously dealing with some chronic illness that's serious, like my suggestion would be like going on an all fruit diet for, a few days and maybe stopping and then doing it again and trying to detox the body as effectively as possible. Like if you're dealing with something serious.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling good and you just want to do a little bit of a detox, like, you can do that too. But like I said, there are simpler ways to detox. And most of us are probably doing it without even knowing it. And maybe some of us aren't.
Okay.
But regardless, like, you can do it gracefully and you don't have to suffer, right?
It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the direction you're going because you're talking about balance. Do you think that there is a balance with this detoxing when it comes to the body, especially when it comes to how the body's metabolizing food? Because you did talk about how the bloodstream kind of is incorporated into detoxing and how it's important to
Yes.
find that equilibrium.
Yes. So we were talking about this earlier, and sometimes I will do consultations and I will, help people choose different foods in their diet, and we, give them specific herbs to take and give them a whole regimen. And all of a sudden, their body starts to detox, and toxins can actually dump into the bloodstream when this is happening. And you can, because it's trying to get it out, and you can start actually experiencing negative symptoms, and
Mm.
people can get so scared. All of a sudden someone's dealing with something and then they get a UTI,
Hmm.
or they start, feeling unwell or having detox symptoms, which can be like flu-like symptoms. And they immediately get freaked out. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to stop doing this. But
Yeah.
it's like that actually can be very normal because your
Huh.
body is now waking up. And I always look at the body in the simplest way as a vehicle. And so we have our engine lights. And when we are constantly suppressing the body with pharmaceuticals or any sort of just numbing agents in
Mm.
general, the body is taught to not express. You are silencing the body. And so the body stops talking to you, which we don't want that. And so when you start to heal, the body starts to wake up and it starts to express. That engine light comes back on.
Mm.
And so sometimes people's engine light has been off for so long, and then all of a sudden something comes on and they feel these symptoms and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't like this. I don't
Mhm.
want to do that. But it's like, no, that's good. We want the body to express, because it's like, hey, this is what I need. Let's fix this. And you got to
Right.
work through it. And unfortunately, sometimes that can be uncomfortable,
Mm.
right? Because you have to feel in order to heal, instead
I
of
like
just
that.
numbing. Because if you're just numbing and suppressing, whatever you're dealing with can actually go deeper into the body. And then that's how serious disease can begin.
Okay. That's very, very good what you just said. And this makes me think of just the way we are consuming food. So, when you're talking about how the body metabolizes, I know that there are a lot of meat lovers, and I know that um, there are a lot of people who are eating foods, lots of fats, butter, sugars, starches, because they are, like you mentioned before, following a pattern or a diet from their parents. Or
Hmm.
even on the Canada, is it the food guide? It tells us like
Don't even get me started
it
on
has lied
the
to us.
Canadian.
It tells us like what we should be eating, the amount of protein, the amount of carbohydrates. Like it's
Flip it upside down.
oh interesting. Can you talk about that?
So, okay, this is a sensitive topic for
Okay.
many.
Yeah.
We are ultimately all looking for healing. We are all trying to heal. This generation is very sick,
Mm.
unfortunately. We are seeing a lot of illness. And so we're searching and we're
Mm.
looking back at our ancestors. We're looking at our ancestors and we're like, okay, they were healthy. What were they doing? And a lot of the times, our ancestors were eating really high fat, high meat diets.
Hmm.
And we have to remember that that was usually after World War II, when we didn't have a lot. And so, in order to survive, they needed a lot of those high fat foods. Like eggs wasn't really a big food before until after World War II.
Really?
Of course, butter was, and all of these things in moderation,
Yep.
but they were in survival mode. They also had a way less toxic overload than we do today.
Mm.
Like, every generation needs to be looked at differently. We cannot follow what people from the past were doing. We need to figure out what we need to do in order to deal with what we are dealing with, because
Right.
every generation is dealing with a different pathogen, with different bacteria, with different toxins, etc. So fats are good for us. We know that. Meat, I eat meat. You know,
Yep.
I'm not vegan. I don't think negatively of vegans. I totally get it. But I personally don't feel good being vegan. I like to have a little bit of meat. I don't eat a lot of meat. Like I talked about when in Chinese medicine, how there's an order of eating food. And so I usually save my fat and meat consumption until after lunch.
Okay.
So I have my, breakfast, brunch, whatever, all my fruit. And then after that, I'll start having my fats. And then usually I have my meat with dinner. And that's all I feel that I need for the day as a woman, in my body, in my size. But I feel like this generation has this obsession right now, especially with just social media and what's teaching us, with just like high amounts of fats and tons of meat. And, there's a time and a place. But when we eat lots of fats and we eat lots of meats, what happens is our blood thickens. And it actually takes longer for us to detox because it's harder on the liver, it's harder on the kidneys, and then the digestive process is also slower. So it makes it difficult for your body to detox if you're eating meat every single meal of the day. If you're eating like extreme high fats all the time. Again, we need a lot of fats, but I do think there's this extreme side that's happening right now where we need to kind of step back and be like, okay, like you may be following this trend, but do you feel good doing it? Okay, if you feel good doing it, then, that's on you. If that's what you feel good doing, like I'm a big fan of like, do what makes you feel good, and not in the moment, but like after. If you feel strong and healthy, okay, that's fine.
Right.
But I find a lot of people who I talk to, they'll tell me things like, I have like 6 eggs for breakfast and bacon, and then I have bread, and then I have, more eggs, and then we have like beef or chicken, and it's just like all of this meat, and they feel like crap. And it's like, okay. And they're like, I'm trying to do everything right, but it's not working. My kids are still always sick. And it's like, okay, if you aren't seeing a positive change, then maybe just take a step back and assess and see like, okay, maybe we can take a little bit of this out, add a little bit of this in. And so I do think that we do need to be a little bit mindful of how much we are consuming, because we are exposed to so much more toxins in this generation. Chemtrails, okay? Like, you guys, you see it. I hope we still don't have to debate about this conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, they call it cloud seeding now, and they do admit to it, which is great, but they don't admit to the high amounts of chemicals in it. So regardless.
Point is, we're surrounded by chemicals,
surrounded by
chemicals, in our food or in our environment.
Pesticides, like it's everywhere. You cannot avoid it. And so we can't avoid it. Let's not stress. Let's not panic. Let's not, try and run away to every country, because it's everywhere. You can't escape it. You know what I mean? Like, it's less in some places, more in others, but regardless, the best thing we can do is just give ourselves a little bit of time every day to detox, right?
Well, I was going to say, can you speak on the fact that, so my family, they're Caribbean, they're from Trinidad. My partner is from Africa. Well, he's Nigerian. So a lot of like my family, like we eat meat. Like it's with every meal. It's goat, it's beef, it's chicken, and a lot of like I don't know how you can tell a male just like not to eat meat. They feel like they need
Males
it.
are different.
Oh, okay. So can you speak on that? Because I can't take it out of my partner's diet. I'm not going to try to. But it's really interesting because like his diet is just, he needs meat. He's like meat.
But if he feels like he needs all of that meat, then perhaps he does. If he feels good doing that, then, he can continue to do that, but give himself a time in the day to detox, right? That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I do my thing because that's what I feel good. And if you feel like you need to detox, incorporate your fruits in the morning. I still think everyone should have fruits for breakfast. That's just my opinion.
Right.
But if he's giving himself a little bit of time every day to detox, then that's great, because things can catch up to you over time, right? If you're constantly, never in a detox mode, like, your arteries can.
Well, I always wonder if that's why, because there's a link to a lot of, I don't know if it's a lot of males or if it's a lot of like black males where they have a lot of cholesterol.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think that's linked to
So
them
there's
eating
this
meat.
doctor that I follow, and he's actually a vegan doctor. And again, like, I'm not vegan. I don't want to be vegan.
Yep.
And he talks about how people with melanin need to eat differently than people without melanin.
Wow.
And so this stuff goes deep, right? Either way, everyone needs to detox, okay? Starting, like, everyone is going to digest food the same way.
Right.
Women and men are different.
Yep.
Ethnicities are different.
Absolutely.
So there are these little differences that we need to be aware of. And again, you can go into those topics on your own and really dive deep and get sucked into the wormhole. But this one doctor who I follow, he's really amazing. And he specifically, like, treats Black people, not in like a weird way, but it's just a lot of Black people just go to him. It just happens naturally.
Yep.
And he believes that people with melanin should not have high meat consumption, which, you know, it makes sense because if you look at where they come from, it's usually these hot countries. And what is growing there? We have to look at where we come from. Okay, what types of foods are there? There's a lot of fruit.
Mango.
A lot of fruit, you know? Yes, they have their meats and whatever, but you don't see them eating it, depending on where you are, as much as you do here in this country.
That's true. They probably have like one meal a day.
You know, I was just in Jamaica and I was, you know, watching how my family ate. And, you know, they just wake up, grab a mango from the tree. You know, they're eating tons and tons of fruit. And then they have, you know, their goat and their lamb and their stuff for dinner and in between here. But they are constantly eating fruit. And I will also say their elements are different. Like, they're exposed to, like, the salts in the air. That helps you detox.
That's true.
Right?
That's a good point.
It's cleaning you every single day. Like, when you're near the ocean, I always have a debate with people about this because they'll be like, oh, well, this person lives in this tropical country and they're vegan. And I'm like, I think it's a lot better being vegan living near the ocean than it is being vegan living in the cold.
That's a good point.
You know? So there's so many layers to it that you have to think about. But ultimately, I will say that I think that in the Western world, the Black diet has been very manipulated and targeted. It's
meat
like
and potatoes.
Well, it's like fried chicken.
I know.
Cornbread.
Yeah.
And they've like made it a part of like Black culture.
Yeah, they have.
And it has been extremely detrimental to Black people's health. And this is not our culture. No. This is not our culture. Fried food, fried chicken, fake food, fast food. Like, go to where you were born and look around you at what is growing. And that is going to tell you a lot about what you should be eating.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. That's a great point.
Right?
I love that. So I'm really interested in, because when you say look around, you see what's growing, you know, there's fruits, there's vegetables. Talk to me about, I want to transition into a vegetable. I want to talk about celery juice. Celery. So I want to just, the reason why I want to bring it up is because we keep talking about fruit and vegetables. And it's interesting because there definitely is a link to how healthy celery is for the body and regulating the body as well. So can you talk about that and then the benefit of it for men as well? Like, I know there's a benefit for women.
For women and men, like for all humans.
Yeah.
Celery juice is amazing. Like, I have a deep love for celery juice because it helped me and my family so much. Now, celery juice is so great because not only does it increase the good bacteria in your gut, it works as like a natural probiotic. Like, we don't take probiotics in my family. If there's something going on, we take celery juice because it increases the good bacteria in your gut, and the good bacteria fights off the bad bacteria. And it also opens up, like, it has the ability to like push toxins out of the liver.
So it's good for the circulation.
It's good for the nervous system. It's good for bacteria. It's good for detoxing. It's a diuretic. It is good for the skin. It's good for any acute or chronic illness. I'm telling you, if you have a cold, if you have a flu, and you juice 16 ounces of celery juice, watch how quickly that goes away.
Obviously, it has to be organic, right? Or does it matter?
I mean, it would still work if it's not organic, but you should get organic because now you're just putting pesticides in your body that has to, you know what I mean? It's still going to help. But yeah, get organic for sure and juice it. If you don't have a juicer, you can get a blender and then you can strain it through a cheesecloth.
Okay, yeah.
But when I was pregnant with my daughter, I drank celery juice every day because it helped so much with morning sickness.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was just having a tough time, especially digestion. Everything's moving and changing. And so I did that, and that was like, it's so good for you. It's high in sulfur, has so many minerals. It also was one of the juices that helped heal my son from eczema. So when he was a little boy, when he was like not even a year, my son, oh my gosh, he will eat anything. He's amazing. It is mind blowing. Wow. So he would see me drinking celery juice every morning, and he'd be like, "I want some, Mom." And so I'd put it in a shot glass with a little straw just to make him feel involved. And he would drink it, and I'm like, "Do you like this? Like, this doesn't taste very good." And he loved it. And so I kept increasing it. And he would drink 5 ounces every single morning. And while I gave him the homeopathic remedies for his skin, and that was one of the main foods that helped heal his eczema. It is so good. And recently I had him on it again because he drank some water, some stagnant water outside that was in the water table. You know, we weren't using the water table, it was off to the side. He went and drank it. There was like mold in there.
Oh no.
He broke out in bumps all over his body. I was like, oh, like probably a parasite amongst other things. And so we did a parasite cleanse. And, I put him on the same regimen of sulfur and serenum, and gave him celery juice, cleared right up. Okay. Like amazing. That's the thing we have to remember is, we talk about like healing and, Elijah was healed from eczema. But like, what is eczema? Eczema is an overload of toxins in the body, and the body starts expressing through the skin. Just because you healed once from it doesn't mean it won't come back. Right? So if you heal yourself or your child or a family member from eczema, like you need to stay consistent. Interesting. Right? Or else that overload of toxins can come back, and then the skin expresses it out. It's trying to push it out. And that's your sign like, oh, thank you, body, for letting me know we need to get something out. Let's help you to remove that. So celery juice is so amazing. I have seen it do amazing things for people. I always recommend it when someone has any sort of issues, because usually most issues are due to like an overload of something in the body, right? And it's just gonna help guide whatever needs to be removed. We all have something that needs to be removed. Right. So if you can juice 16 ounces of celery for like 2 weeks, every couple of months, that is a great form of detoxing. Empty stomach, first thing in the morning, take your celery juice, and then after that, have your lemon water to just help it even more, and then start your day. Like, great gentle form.
I think that's an amazing conclusion, because I was just going to ask you if you had to give the listeners advice as to how can they transition into incorporating practices of detoxing. That's a great piece of advice.
Absolutely.
They can start with celery juice. They can continue by juicing. They can find a time where they cut off their food intake and then intuitively listen to their bodies when they're about to eat again, but also take in water, lemon water, to flush out the work that has happened overnight.
Flush. Remember to flush.
Yeah.
Even after a big meal, I always drink lemon water after my meals, right?
Oh, yes.
Let's help digestion. Let's help flush. And you can even chew on a clove, because clove will actually like build up the stomach acids in the body, in the stomach, to help digest foods. If if meat's something that's hard for someone to digest, or you just want to make sure you digest it better, you can chew on a piece of clove. That's going to help. Or you can take a teaspoon of cayenne pepper and a little bit of water and drink that back. And that cayenne pepper literally helped. I used to have a lot of digestive issues, and cayenne pepper literally healed my digestive issues. It's amazing. And you wouldn't think, because it's spicy. You're like, oh no, cayenne pepper. It will not burn your stomach. It will not cause ulcers. It will actually remove ulcers and help your digestion, and also kind of, help detox and just eliminate whatever needs to be eliminated from the body.
Yes. Well, listeners, you heard it here from around the kitchen table with
Happy Herbs.
Yeah. I was going to say, you could say like your name.
Rochelle.
And Jordanna. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insight when it comes to detoxing. I think that this is going to be such a game changer for the listeners, because it's so simple. Yeah. And it's made to be so complicated and overwhelming. And I don't think we should put our bodies in a state of panic when we're trying to get healthy. Yeah. I think it's balance. I think it's finding that equilibrium.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your thoughts. We appreciate you. Thank and until next time, we'll see you guys later.
God bless.